still huge developments this afternoon around the State Capture Commission, corruption in the ANC, and the comments by three former presidents, all who at least appeared to be critical of President Cyril Ramaphosa. One of the sharpest criticisms came from former President Thabo Mbeki. He said the ANC needed to consider what would happen if the parliamentary panel investigating the Palapala scandal found there was prima facie evidence against Ramaphosa. In the latest development, about 2 hours ago now, the Strategic Dialogue Group, which hosted Mbeki, said his comments were deliberately distorted. They also said it was not an attack on any leader, and that people who want otherwise want people to hear nothing, see nothing, and say nothing, while the movement implodes. That's a reference, of course, to the ANC. Well, so much going on. Thought best to have two people to discuss it with us this afternoon. Rebone, a political analyst, author of the book The Rise and Fall of the ANC Youth League. Khanya Vilakazi is a political analyst at the University of Mpumalanga. Good afternoon to you both, and thank you for your time. Rebone, if I may start with you, we have three former presidents appearing to criticize a current president. We have that big speech by President Ramaphosa last night. We have provinces in the ANC responding to former President Jacob Zuma. What is happening underneath all of this? What's driving this?
Steve, good afternoon to the viewers at home. I think the ANC is in a big crisis, and why I say this, the former leaders of the ANC have put the ANC in this crisis. We can go back to 2005, building up to Polokwane. You remember the time Kgalema Motlanthe was the Secretary General of the ANC, and you had Jacob Zuma as the Deputy President of the ANC, and Thabo Mbeki as the President of the ANC. And funny enough that the three of them who have put the organization, the ANC, into this dysfunctional organization are now coming out. And none of them over the years have come out and taken responsibility of what led to Polokwane. Because what we're seeing today, it is the roots of what happened in Polokwane. Because President Thabo Mbeki, we know that he wanted to run for third term. But till today, we don't know why Kgalema Motlanthe, as the Secretary General, decided not to support Thabo Mbeki for third term, but decided to be on the slate of President Jacob Zuma as his deputy in Polokwane. So they need to take responsibility. I feel sorry for President Ramaphosa. If you look at the current ANC leadership, how it is composed, the top six, it is for the first time that you have people who never spent time in exile or in Robben Island, And this seems like there is a root group of those that were in exile and in Robben Island against someone who was in exile, as they would say, within the ANC. They need to take responsibilities as former presidents of the ANC.
Khanya Vilakazi, do you agree with that? I mean, the criticism by three former presidents, do they need to look in the mirror a bit?
I think that is true, Stephen and Rebukile. But however, I think we need to pay caution to them speaking out in such a manner, because let's not look at who's saying it, but what are they saying? I think they might be seeing the writing on the wall for the ANC under this leadership as probably the last administration to possibly lead South African government.
Do you think, and I mean, I don't like to jump into conspiracy. Okay, I do like to jump into conspiracy theories, I'll be honest. But, Khanya, first, do you think that this was coordinated? I must say, Mbeki, Zuma, and Motlanthe are three very different people. Or do you think it just happened that on one weekend they all made similar comments?
It's very funny when you say it's a conspiracy theory, but I think it's leading up to December, and I think everybody's taking a shot at each and every single opportunity that they get, each and every single platform that politicians get, utilized to push a certain narrative. And I think one needs to be reminded of how if former presidents Thabo Mbeki and former President Jacob Zuma were in a unified manner, how detrimental that would be for the incumbent President Cyril Ramaphosa.
Rebone, how do you see it? I mean, in a way, I think Khanya maybe puts his finger on something quite important there when he suggests that people are using this time before a conference to say whatever it is they want to say. In the past, ANC conferences were very different. Firstly, there were fewer former ANC leaders around, right? And that's just a structural thing. Secondly, I would suggest that there were more boundaries around what people would say. No one wanted to rock the boat too much. Now it seems no one really cares if they rock the boat.
No, absolutely. I mean, but what is said also is that all former presidents of the ANC have got a standing invite as ex-officials to the National Executive Committee. Unfortunately, you and I sitting here were not privy to, if they attend meetings and if they have raised some of the things that they have raised in the public domain over the weekend in those National Executive Committee meetings. And secondly, I think the ANC needs to probably consider having a council of elders, and where all those former presidents would sit, in that council of elders, where they can at times even call the president at any time or any leader of the ANC, I'll give you an example. If you go back to the 1991 conference, this is where O.R. Tambo, the longest serving president of the ANC, becomes the national chair of the ANC. And when you read up about his mandate as the national chair, was about ANC policies as the national chair and also organizational discipline, which the ANC lacks, and it's said that what are the young leaders within the ANC going to learn when their leaders, who are seen as their elders, doing such in the public domain?
I'm going to come to Khanya on this in a moment as well, but Rebone, I'm trying to imagine former President Thabo Mbeki and former President Jacob Zuma in a room choosing who gets to pour the tea and who gets to pour the milk. I don't know if I can see it. I mean, the scars of Polokwane are very deep.
I'm not sure if it was around 2017 or 2016. I don't know if you recall of the letter that was leaked, a letter that was written to former President Jacob Zuma by former President Mbeki to him. And when you read that letter, you can see that there's some form of respect towards Jacob Zuma when he was addressing him in that letter. He further even says, Gwede Mantashe, who was then the Secretary General, that he wants to deal with political matters and use organizational processes and not to deal with them politically. So you can see that there is that mutual respect between these two people.
Khanya Vilakazi, I mean, would any kind of sort of elders council in the ANC work, or are things too far gone?
I think things are too far gone. I think the NEC in itself is a council of elders looking at the age disparity between the leaders of the ANC and the general public that vote for the ANC. However, I think in the letter that Rebone is alluding to, I think both President Mbeki and President Zuma have some sort of mutual respect from each other. The other has the love and adulation of the masses, and the other has the intellectual prowess that is deemed of high esteem from the masses as well. So the combination of those two together, I think it is a formidable force. But however, I don't think President Cyril Ramaphosa in and himself shares or has that same level of respect from both former presidents Mbeki and Zuma.
I mean, the young never get the respect that they want from the elders, do they? It's a common problem. Khanya, I was very intrigued by the response from the various ANC provinces, particularly to what former President Jacob Zuma had to say. And look, his was the strongest criticism, that Ramaphosa is guilty of treason over Palapala for having a side hustle, as it were. We'll put aside the Guptas for a moment. But you had the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal first out of the blocks with a statement asking all three to, I think the word they used was refrain, and particularly talking to Zuma. The ANC in Limpopo joining in, Oscar Mabayani, I think, joining in from the Eastern Cape as well. What do you read into that? 3 ANC provinces, very, very quick to bring out their response?
I think, yet again, Stephen, I think we need to look at what did they say versus who said it. Because I think most of them said what is already in the public domain and people have some sort of feeling towards. And I think these are the issues that the ANC will continuously do, using a thumb to hide their face, while else we all see the issues that are at bay and we are not actually facing them. So I think the biggest frustration that normal South Africans will see is they'll see in provincial structures these people defending a certain point instead of saying these are the issues that were raised. It will be good if these issues were raised in an NEC meeting or in other structures. However, acknowledging that these issues are issues of high importance, especially to us, the electorates.
Rebone, we need to change tack a little bit, because there's also the big announcement from President Cyril Ramaphosa last night about the Zondo Commission, his response to all of it. Lots of responses in terms of what's going to change in government. No action against the people implicated by the Commission who he appointed to his cabinet. Gwede Mantashe, David Mahlobo, there are others. Does that show that he just politically cannot act? The ANC keeps talking, the government keeps talking, Ramaphosa keeps talking that they're against corruption, and yet there sits David Mokglobo.
I think for me, I was also reflecting on that he missed an opportunity, to reshuffle his cabinet, and to give confidence to South Africans. I want us to leave David Mokglobo and look at 4 people. Gwere Mantashe, Kumbuzo, who was in the board of Denel, Thabo Mbeki. I'm trying to remember the Zizukot. Now, these are people who were in his faction in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
that's true.
and they are still in his faction. So if he would remove them, he will be shaking the boat. Mm. Because right now, indeed, things are not certain for him going to December. So obviously, he's playing politics. And I've always consistently said, President Ramaphosa did a mistake by wanting to run for second term. Because he made promises in 2017. His term comes to an end in December without delivering anything, especially on issues of fighting corruption. So that makes it very difficult for South Africans to have confidence in him going to 2024 if this man is serious about the country, as he always speaks about putting South Africa first before the organization.
Khanya, if the president doesn't act now, is there any reason that he would act after the December conference?
No, I don't think he would. Yet again, even going into the December conference, I think most of his allies are saying that he deserves to be he deserves a second run at it. But he doesn't deserve anything. Nobody deserves to lead a country. Everybody needs to earn the right and respect to lead a country. And for him, I think he has failed on both counts as president of the country and as of the ANC. Because if he would say that his task was the renewal of the ANC, then we are seeing much more rampant corruption within the ANC than his so-called 9 wasted years that have been brought up by the State Capture Commission. It's only a matter of time until the dominoes start falling. Because yet again, the 4 that Rebone mentioned were heavily implicated, but nothing has happened to them. So it does look like there is some sort of political meddling that he's trying to play at, just so that he can get to December and possibly get re-elected.
I mean, Rebone, this suggests that once again the country's on hold until December. We've been here before.
No, absolutely. I mean, nothing is going to happen between now and December. The battle lines are drawn in the party, and also they have to also close ranks within the CR17 faction. So that's why he will not be able to move, because he needs to close ranks for his faction not to be seen weaker within the party.
We were talking a little earlier, and Rebone, I'll come to you first on this. We were talking a little earlier about how it seems that people can say whatever they want in the ANC and sort of get away with it. But you could argue that that started in 2017. One could look at Fikile Mbalula's Twitter timeline and see evidence of that. If you look at the leadership race now, is the conference going to be able to come up with what I would call a coherent leadership? In other words, a group of people who actually be able to work together. It seems to me what the ANC would really need, I'm not going to speak for them, but what they probably really need right now is a group of leaders that represent the different factions and yet can work together. I don't know if that's possible.
I think I want us to go back to 2017. There was a call by veterans of the ANC saying that there needs to be a consultative conference of the ANC. And if you go into the history, the last consultative conference on the ANC was in 1990. Before their conference in 1991. The ANC has never had a consultative conference to actually take stock and reflect, because nothing can be resolved at any elective conference. We've seen even in the different provinces, how the issue will be about credentials, which some would say is an attendance register, But there is so much lack of political tolerance within the ANC amongst these comrades who at times, want to come across as they are united, but there is no unity. We have seen over the past 5 years, that there was never any unity, but every year during the January statement, the president or the NEC statement will speak about unity of the ANC. I can tell you, for an example, when I spoke to some, regarding the statements that were released by the provinces, I spoke to one of the provincial leaders, and their worry was that if some within the ANC are behaving in this way, it makes it difficult for them in 2024 when they go and do the campaigning, because then the society can see that this is an organization that is not united, this is an organization that is eating itself up.
Khanya Vilakazi, I mean, this is the issue. I mean, we can say what we like about the ANC, we can criticize it if we like. It is all very transparent. We can see what's happening to a great extent, far greater than we ever have before. What impact is all of this having on voters? I mean, come 2024, people are going to know what's happened and how the ANC has responded to state capture.
Yeah, I think even with the leakages of NEC meetings, we are now getting a look at how NEC meetings are being run and what issues are actually being brought forward by certain individuals. However, leading to 2024, I think the ANC has a very big task to actually show greater society that they deserve another opportunity at the helm. However, I don't think that has, if Cyril Ramaphosa is leading at that time, I think that will be a very difficult task because the factions within the ANC in itself have him as one side of a faction, and if he wins or he loses, is he going to be gracious enough to go back and campaign for the ANC, or is he not going to campaign and stay at home? But either way, the voters that are looking at the ANC going into December, looking at the mudslinging that's happening, they're asking themselves one question: is this the political party that they want at the helm? After so much has happened. But even so, I think we need to take into cognizance the fact that we know that these things are happening. It's very transparent. Therefore, we can have an eye in terms of what is going on in the ANC, and is this a political party that we can choose to vote for because they are free enough to air their laundry for us to see as voters.
We have been through a period of several shocks to our politics in many different ways over the last little while. You could argue just the fact that we've had three former leaders, three former presidents speaking in a way as something like they did is something we've never seen before. I worry if there may be more shocks to come, and I think Rebone, former President Mbeki, may actually be doing all of us a service by posing the question, what happens if, in fact, the panel, the three-judge panel investigating the Palapala scandal in the National Assembly comes to the conclusion that the sitting president has a prima facie case to answer around Palapala? I don't know if I understand what will happen in the ANC if that does happen. I mean, this would be before December. I don't know what the result would be. Do you?
I think if they go for a secret ballot, it would be interesting. But if they don't go for a secret ballot, they would close the ranks. Because obviously with the secret ballot, some will vote with the opposition on the matter. You know, I mean, for an example, there was the issue, if you remember, of that leaked audio of the National Executive Committee, where the president was saying he knows how state money is being used for ANC processes, and we saw what happened. You know, they voted against him coming to account. So here it's about the issue of the secret ballot. Definitely, if there is a secret ballot, we might see different outcomes within Parliament.
Khanya Vilakazi, if the three judges do come to the conclusion that there is a prima facie evidence against Ramaphosa, do you think he would have to step aside?
I think he should have stepped aside a long time ago, Stephen, owing to the integrity of the ANC. I think you can't lead an organization that you yourself has dubbed accused number one of corruption, but you're not willing to say, because there's an investigation around a certain matter that is tainting the ANC, let me step aside and allow the judicial process to go through. I think if it is the fact that he has something to answer for, I think the ANC is going to be in a lot of trouble.
Khanya Vilakazi, thank you, political analyst at the University of Mpumalanga. Also with us, Rebone, author of The Rise and Fall of the ANC Youth League, a political analyst, as you can hear. So much going on in our politics, so much going on